First of all, the objectivity that syllabus has, that the subject has. Like for example, there is a well-defined syllabus, and therefore a structured answer is possible. The questions that have been asked and that will be asked will be more objective questions. That means the answers should be having objectivity. It is vast, therefore it also has a relevance in general studies. It's very much relevant. Relevance in general studies in general studies paper 1. If you go through syllabus, it says world geography with physical phenomena such as earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, so on. It also demands world industries, primary, secondary, tertiary industries. Then what we often do not pay emphasis to is its relevance in general studies paper 3. Because in paper 3 we have topics like agriculture, cropping pattern of India, irrigation of India, and also infrastructure such as railways, roadways, airways, ports, which will be discussed, which will be covered in the optionals. In other aspects, we also study social geography, which is very much relevant for the topics such as social issues and society of India, Indian society. So very much useful when it comes to the relevance in the general studies. Now another aspect, another advantage, it's scoring. If you go through the previous year marks, you will find that most of the candidates in geography have scored more than 260 marks. And some of them, most of them in fact, have scored more than 300, which makes it a most winning optionals in the civil service examinations. And how to score, that we'll be discussing. I'll be discussing that a little later. Then another advantage is that it has a very defined syllabus. Syllabus has been elaborated. It's not reading between the lines. It's not interpretation. The topic is mentioned in the syllabus, and if you check the previous year question papers, most of the questions have been asked from this defined syllabus, straightforward. So if you read these topics carefully and go through every aspect of syllabus, you will be getting good marks in exam. And let us now discuss what are the different aspects of geography and what are the different syllabus, different components of geography that we need to study for this exam. So far as the syllabus is concerned, in general studies paper 1, in geography optionals paper 1, it is mentioned as physical geography. physical geography. And the topics included in physical geography include geomorphology. If you open up the syllabus for geomorphology, you will find that this topic has subtopics such as interiors of Earth, continental drift, plate tectonics, mountain building, related phenomena such as volcanism, earthquakes, tsunamis, and cycle of erosion. Now, you will find that students are very comfortable in this part of geomorphology. They have ample resources to fulfill the need of the question for these topics. Relatively problematic area includes next topic of geography, that is slope development and the theories related to slope development, denudational chronology, and erosional surfaces. Then topics such as applied geomorphology, we have this channel morphology. In these syllabus, in these topics, the material, either it is not very concise or it is not very easily understandable. So this part of geomorphology therefore becomes little more challenging than rest of the geomorphology. But if you prepare these topics carefully, you will observe that most of the questions have been asked in the past 5 years from these topics: slope development, denudation chronology, erosional surfaces, channel morphology. So the bulkiest topic is geomorphology. It takes some time, little more time than other topics to cover up the syllabus, but then still very scoring, very rewarding topic. Right? Then the second topic that is mentioned in the syllabus is climatology. Which is relatively simpler topic, but conceptual, needs a conceptual clarity. And that conceptual clarity, topics include atmosphere and the structure of atmosphere, temperature, heat budget, atmospheric pressure, pressure belts, atmospheric circulations, including winds, jet streams, clouds. Then other topics such as cyclones, anticyclones, air masses, and frontogenesis. And then comes the topic climatic classification. Climatic classification plus applied climatology. Again, in this topic, relatively tougher part is this climatic classification, which is very, very useful for exam. I find people very comfortable again with these atmosphere, heat, budget, pressure, etc. conceptual. Now this is very factual. Most of the questions in the past have been asked from this climate classification. See, it's difficult to remember, but not very difficult. If you remember it, you are going to get straightforward questions and again very rewarding. And for climatology, I suggest we should be very clear with the first part of climatology. That is a basic understanding about temperature, pressure and all. Then the second aspect becomes very easy. The climatic classifications become very easy. It would also require your good understanding on world maps, good clarity on the world maps, and then aspects of climate change and climatology and urban climate. Relevant, very relevant, especially when we discuss the natural disasters. It's very relevant again in general studies as well as the optionals. Third topic includes oceanography. You see, oceanography actually deals with hydrology. It deals with hydrosphere. It deals with the processes that take place on the surface of ocean and properties of ocean water and the ocean bottom relief. Now here in geomorphology, we study about volcanoes, fold mountains and the structures that are found on the surface of earth. Here in oceanography, there is one topic related to the ocean, the geomorphology, which is called as ocean bottom relief, which includes study of sea mounts, ridges, fault lines in oceans, volcanoes and so on. Then next aspect of this is salinity, ocean salinity and ocean temperature, including TS diagram. So, if you understand temperature in climatology, you can also understand temperature distribution on the surface of ocean, and there are some common points that we have to discuss in oceanography. Apart from this, apart from the two, little more challenging topic here is salinity, or it is called as heat and salt budget, which is a bit more technical in the sense that we have to understand what is the source of salt in the oceans, how does it maintain the balance of salt. Budget means what? Incoming, outgoing equal to 0. So how does this balance, how is this balance maintained is basically discussed in heat and salt budget. Then some ocean circulations, which is very interesting and very relevant for climatology also, which includes mainly ocean currents. And ocean currents are very, very important in determining the climate of a region. Say for example, regions with the warm ocean currents have frequent cyclones, and regions with the cold currents have deserts. That's because of we need to understand the phenomena of air masses and relate it to the ocean circulations. Then apart from this, tides, waves, which are a part of ocean circulation, there's a topic for coral reefs. We all know corals are marine organisms, and the geomorphic structure that they form by the accumulation of calcium carbonate and dead corals along with mollusks are called as reefs. So we need to understand what are different types of reefs, how are they important for human habitation, and the distribution of corals. And there are some theories related to this. Then apart from these coral reefs, we also have to understand ocean deposits. and resources. Now these are some of the topics that we need to discuss in oceanography. See, if you look at these three topics, you will find that in paper 1, section A, most of the questions have been asked from these topics. And if you understand carefully, you see it is geomorphology, that is lithosphere, it is climatology, that is atmosphere, it is oceanography, that is hydrosphere. And when you sum up all this, it becomes biosphere. And fourth component is biogeography, where we study soils, which is more technical topic. It takes some time to understand soils and the distribution of soils. Luckily the question have been simple in the past, but then it takes some time to understand soils and remember types of soils. Then we have to understand in this, in biogeography, the principles of ecology, ecosystem, distribution of plants and animals, factors affecting distribution of plants and animals, ecological succession. So basically, principles of ecology in detail needs to be studied in biogeography. And then comes a fifth component, that is environmental geography. Environmental geography. Paper 1, fifth component, which is in present context very, very relevant, because we are talking about disasters, we are talking about climate change, we are talking about, these days there is a discussion about the human impact on ecology. All these topics will be covered in environmental geography. So these are 5 major topics of physical geography. Now let me discuss some of the questions that have been asked in this topic. Say for example, the easier and tougher questions. I'll discuss probably 2 types of questions. Relatively easier questions that have been asked include Davysian model in geomorphology. Like this year, to 2017, there was a question on landform as a factor of structure, process and stage. Now if you study about geography, geomorphology, the very first topic, the very introduction of geomorphology begins with this, that what are the factors that determine landform development, landform changes. And W.M. Davis in 1899 itself had given this concept, structure, process, stage, which is also called as Davysian trio. Structure means lithology, that is what is landform composed of. Process includes erosional process, stage includes time. Now a landform that has metamorphic rocks takes a lot of time to erode because it resists erosion. Compared to sedimentary rocks erode much faster than other 2 types of rocks, that is metamorphic and igneous rocks. So landform development is determined by the composition of the rock. Process, see the river process is quite different than the glacial process, is quite different than the wind process. So the landforms that you find in all the 3 types of erosive agents is quite different than each other. So process determining landform. Then stage, you find if the landform has been formed in the recent era, like Himalayas, we have generally structures like V-shaped valleys, we have waterfalls, but mountains like Aravalis do not have V-shaped valleys because the time of origin was very old. they have become old. So the landform development dependent upon structure, process, stage. It's an relatively easier question to answer in exam. You have a lot of material to write. And when you mention Davison trio, when you mention the structure, the factors affecting structure, process, stage, you will be getting good marks. But tougher questions. I saw a lot of people in panic when the question was asked in exam about the American school of thoughts of subaerial erosion. Of subaerial erosions. See what happens. We all know that most of the students who opt for geography optional, geography subject in the civil service examination, do not have geography background. They have not studied geography in academics. But because they find geography interesting, they find it relevant, they can study, they can score good marks, they choose geography optionals. One of the mistakes that we make is we do not focus on this geographical thoughts. It's obvious because we are not from, the students are not from academic geography. But if you understand thoughts, you should be focusing on how does this topic comes into geography. What is the history of that topic? Who all have contributed in understanding, in presenting theories and explaining the processes. So obviously you cannot start when you are afresh. But when you complete the syllabus for the first time, please also read about the history of that topic, the contributions made by various geographers in that particular topic. See here, American school of thoughts, it is not easy if you do not understand the contributions made by American geographers like J.W. Powell, who gives the concept of base level, W.M. Davis, who synthesizes this geographical school of thoughts in 1904, G.K. Gilbert, who talks about fluvial erosion and the laws of fluvial erosion. So we cannot handle this question. You must also relate it to the various geographers who have contributed in the development of theories in explaining various concepts. And for that purpose, please also read the first chapter of your books. Many times we do not read the preface of the book and we start directly with the topic. The first chapter sometimes is very, very relevant, very important. In fact, it's every time very relevant because it throws a light on everything that has been covered. It gives us an idea about all the topics that are to be covered in the book and the various geographers or various contributors for the particular theory or a model or any concept. So that is the point where we do not focus upon, and these topics, these questions become difficult. So this is about physical geography and aspects related to physical geography. Second point is about the books that we need to focus on physical geography. See, I always say this, that when we prepare for the UPSC exams, first thing that we do is we collect lots and lots and lots of material. And I say it on a lighter mode at times, that before becoming district collectors, we become material collectors. We collect a lot of material from here, there, and there's no dearth of material. Today in the age of internet, we can collect a lot of material. But the question is that material relevant? And even if it is, then are we in a situation, or do we have enough time to read all that material and read it 4 to 5 times so that we can comfortably reproduce it in the exam? If no, then there is no point having so much of material. So rather than going for, 10 books one time, you read one book 10 times. That will be more beneficial. So I'll suggest some of the references. It is also present, it is also available in our material. Physical Geography by Savindra Singh, which is treated as Bible in India for UPSC preparation for physical geography. It's very important. Yes, all topics have been compiled together, so it will be useful. It will cover most of the topics of geomorphology, climatology, and some topics of biogeography as well. For geomorphology, you must also refer to Geomorphology by Savindra Singh. This is one. There is one more book by Geomorphology by P. Dayal. It's a good book, not as elaborate in some topics as Savindra Singh, but a very good language and covers most of the relevant topics. For climatology, there is a reference book, Climatology by D.S. Lal. Some of them also focus on Critchfield, but I don't want you to go for Critchfield as such. Oceanography. For oceanography, there are two books that he can refer to. One is Sharma and Wattle. Two books that he can refer to. One is Sharma and Wattle, plus Oceanography by D.S. Lal as well. Then for biogeography, environmental geography, one thing is that you can refer to biogeography by Savindra Singh, plus you must also go through various reports of Ministry of Environment, Forest. There's an annual report published every year. You can go through that as well. But then the biggest question is, do we have ample time to read all this? So that is why we have designed the class material from these sources, which is concise along with class notes, right? So that we can compile all this material and present it to you, give it to you, so that you can read it again and again. You need not to worry about reading many books. For references, please, you must take this book, Savindra Singh, and Geomorphology by Savindra Singh. Rest you can trust class material and the class notes. Then let us go to the section B of geography. That is paper 1, section B, which is mainly about human geography. Topics that are mentioned there, I'll just mention the major topics here, is perspectives in geography, human geography. Now this topic is basically geographical thoughts. As I mentioned earlier, when we say geographical thoughts, we actually mean how geography evolved as a subject. I'll just take 2 minutes to elaborate this geographical thoughts. See, when any subject for that matter has its own history of theories, concepts, model building, and how this subject was shaped with time, and how the philosophy of the subject develops, methodology of subject develop. That is what is studied in geographical thoughts. And students from non-geography background actually do not get linked to this subject so easily. That's simple reason because in academic geography we study it for 3 years or 2 years of post-graduation, so 5 years are good enough to get linked to a subject. But here we have very limited time, 4 to 5 months to prepare an optional. But you see, it's very interesting. Interesting because if you see, geographical thoughts has a relevance in every topic that we study, be it the geomorphology, climatology, settlements, population, economic geography, or for that matter Indian geography or political geography. Because there have been contributions made by various geographers. One of the prominent contributions were made by Greeks. They laid the foundations for physical geography. They defined geography as a description of earth. They laid the foundations for mathematical geography and drew latitudes. Then Romans. There was this very famous Roman geographer Strabo, who wrote some of the most voluminous books in the world and had given a geographical account of many countries in his 17-volume book Historia Memoirs, and so on. Then there was a contribution made by Arabs. Now this is just a brief idea that we should know how geography has evolved, and after that there are some topics, philosophies such as areal differentiation, such as regional synthesis, such as systematic determinism, possibilism, which is dichotomies. See now, how did this evolve? I'll finish this topic. In the medieval ages, geography was treated as a description of earth. But then question arises, how do we describe earth? Should we describe earth as a systematic studies, laws, generalizations, or should we should we study geography as a descriptive sciences? So whether it is systematic or descriptive, there was this debate of general geography and specific geography or regional geography. So therefore these topics come: areal differentiation, systematic geography, regional synthesis, approaches that we need to follow for regional synthesis. Some of them say that we should go to every region and understand its geographical phenomena. Some of them say no, they are interlinked, so we should develop laws and relate them all over. So approaches develop: nomothetic approach, ideographic approach. Then further philosophies develop, whether it is nature that determines the course of history, which is called as geographical causation of history, determinism, that nature determines everything, nature is supreme. Then as human becomes active, possibilism, that man can change his milieu. With the rise of French school of thoughts, this possibilism comes into existence. Then there was a debate of determinism and possibilism, which later culminated into a movement which was called as quantitative revolution. Now and then later there was another part of geography that was added called as welfare geography, where geographers started understanding why one continent is not developed despite having the same conditions. Say for example, Africa is tropical, India is tropical, Australia is tropical. But we don't have the same level of development in all the three continents, all the three regions. So had it been general geography or systematic geography, then same conditions would have led to the same result. But it is not the case. So this branch of geography, which understood the inequalities, which started understanding and studying the inequalities and the cause of inequalities, and also advocating reforms, becomes welfare geography. That is how the next topic comes, human development in Human Development Index. Now this is about a very interesting part of geography called as perspectives in geography. It's all that you need to get linked to this topic. Have to, there is no other option. And once you link this topic, you will understand that every topic that we have studied in geography, from physical geography or human geography, or for that matter regional geography, is somewhere related to geographical thoughts. That way it becomes very interesting and very useful for exam. Now, to study geographical thoughts, again it's a bit challenging, especially for non-geography students, those who do not have in academics. There's a book by Sudipta Adhikari. There is another book by Anand Dixit. It's all your choice, whichever you want to take, but Sudipta Adhikari, I'll suggest that you can take that book, and it's a good book. Then comes the second topic, as mentioned in your syllabus, is about population and settlement geography. Population and settlement geography, where we discuss population problems of the world, population distribution of world, various determinants of population, such as population growth, such as fertility rate, determinants of fertility rate, birth rates, determinants of birth rate, death rates, literacy, determinants of literacy. You find some areas poor in sex ratio, poor in literacy. Why is it so? What are the factors responsible for all this? Population policies of world, including Europe, which is more pro-natal policies, and in India it is anti-natal policies. In other countries, developing countries especially, anti-natal policies. Why now the Europe is experiencing a negative growth rate of population? There is a depopulation that is happening in Europe. What are the factors for that? How it has happened? And so on. That is how we actually study this part. Then comes the settlement. See, the rise of this settlement geography is again very interesting. We all know about world wars, and there was a lot of destruction during the World War time, especially in Europe. So now there was a need of reconstruction and re-establishing cities which were destroyed. So geographers started understanding the city pattern and the best possible plan for the city. And there were a lot of models and theories which were developed at that point of time, which laid the foundations for settlement geography. So you see settlement geography becoming an integral part of geography after world wars, as there was a need to resettle population, re-establish cities, and that's why settlement geography comes into existence. So this should make it clear that what is to be studied in settlements. It's about cities, it's about how do we understand the city pattern, various models, what is the nucleus of the city, what are the pattern, best possible plan for the city, and also issues related to the development of the cities, like environmental issues, especially related to slums, issues related to the urbanization and the increasing crime rates, settlement. And the same thing is in Indian geography also. For these topics, see, there are many books that we refer. There is one book by Rupa publication, Social and Economic Geography. For settlements, you can also refer to this R. Ramachandran. It is mainly about urban geography, but a very good book, throws a light on various topics that have been mentioned in the syllabus. Then third topic is economic geography. When we talk about the human geography, we must also understand human activities, and the first human activity is agriculture. So we study the agriculture pattern of world. Second human activity, industries. So we study industries and industrial development of world. Third, trading. So we study world trade, existing world trade, and various trade models, various industrial models, various agricultural models. Right. Now this is a very dynamic topic, can be covered by social and economic geography, by Rupa publication, volume 2, this is also volume 2, and plus you should also be using internet for some topics such as new world pattern, trade policies, and so on. Then fourth topic here is about regional development and planning. Regional development and planning. See, in this part of geography, first of all, we must understand what is a region, because regional study is a part of geography. And how do we define a region? It is a homogeneous entity. It is a space with homogeneity, with a fixed boundary. So we divide regions in different terms, such as institutional regions, like agricultural regions, like city region. So we have formal regions, which can be quantified, like rainfall, agricultural production, per capita income regions, high per capita income regions, low per capita income regions, and so on. And then we have functional regions. Functional regions include cities which have functionality, like suppose industrial region, mining region, where the classification of city is done on the basis of its functionalities. So first we must understand region. Once we are done with the region, then we discuss its development plan. This is also mentioned in your paper 2, geography optional paper 2, regional development and planning in India, planning of backward regions, which we started actually with the 4th 5-year plan, because now we do not provide general plans. We understand the region, first of all delineate a region, crystallize the boundary of the region, understand the problems of the region, and then give the possible solution which is more surgical to that problem. That is what is to be discussed in regional development and planning. We'll provide an extensive class material for this. Apart from that, you can also study books on regional development. You should be aware of the regional development programs that have been started by Government of India, like Hill Development Plan, Tribal Development Plan, Drought Prone Area Development Program, watershed programs. So that is one aspect. Apart from that, updated class material will be provided. Anyways, material will be provided for all the topics, because we understand that you cannot read all the books. It will be very difficult for you to concise all this. So a concise material along with the class notes will be provided. But approach should be more contemporary in this part of geography. That is about paper 1, and the last topic is mentioned here is models in geography. For this models in geography, you need not to worry, because see, in population there is a topic called as demographic transition. So when we study demographic transition in population, one of the model is done. Then we have agricultural location model, industrial location model, that will be covered in economic geography. Growth models covered in the regional development and planning. So it will be anyways part of human geography. Now, how should you approach human geography? See, when we study physical geography, there are a lot of concepts that are related to sciences. We need some background of understanding basic temperature, pressure, and some science based. Here it's more descriptive. You should have more information about the world so that you can analyze. You should have more information about the world agricultural patterns, distribution of industries, and the recent problems experienced by industries. That is where we have to focus. Questions in this part of geography have been relatively simpler. They have been very easy. But again, you need to read extensively so that you can answer all the questions. And chance of scoring is very high here because questions are not very difficult. They are simple questions, and the answers should also be to the point answer. Should not waver much. Should not waver at all. In fact, you should be very straightforward in answering the questions. So that is what is needed in the human geography aspect. Then when we see the second paper, paper 2 of geography optionals, it does not require any elaborate description, because if you study paper 1, similar topics are mentioned in your paper 2 as well, that is in Indian geography. It's the applied part of paper 1 and paper 2. Like there we study world agriculture, here we have to study Indian agriculture and an elaborate discussion on Indian agriculture. And if you look at the question papers in Indian geography, paper 2, see, questions are simple. They can also be asked in your general studies. Say, for example, there were 2 questions that I'm reminded of. One was the question was asked on Act East policy. We all know what is Act East policy, a continuation of Look East policy. But when you write answers here in paper 2, understand that you must also focus on the geographical aspect. See, when you answer Act East policy, it can be purely political. But you must also understand the geographical significance of Southeast Asia, the geographical relevance of India in the eastern part of the world, the geographical relevance of the resources that is located in the region. We know that it is at the crossroad of the world trade. And being located at the crossroad of the world trade, it has an advantage. So that geographical aspect you must consider. It is a link between Pacific and Atlantic. All the cargoes, trade cargoes pass through this. So therefore it's very important. So geographical significance must also be incorporated in this answer. Same thing, some other questions that can be asked on, like, say, Indian industries, steel plants, location of steel plants, location of agro-based industries, and so on. You must think, have we studied any theory in paper 1 that can be connected here? Say, for example, for this question that was asked on for the steel plants, we can easily relate Weber's industrial location model. We can relate industrial location model because it is raw material dependent and also the market dependent. So the location of industries should be in proximity to the availability of resources and availability of ports. So you find most of the steel plants in Chota Nagpur region, because it is resourceful and also close to the major ports like Paradip, Haldia and Visakhapatnam. So this is how you link two topics, paper 1 and paper 2. That depends upon your thought process. Otherwise, topics in Indian geography, very, very simple. Reference for this topic, Indian Geography by D.R. Kuller. You can read that. Plus, you need to be updated with this magazine Kurukshetra, which gives an extensive coverage on rural development, especially in agriculture and irrigation and so on. You must also refer to Yojana. It will be very handy, very useful in answering questions. There were contemporary questions are asked in paper 2. That will also be very useful in answering with the paper 3 of your general studies. So that is a brief discussion on about syllabus of geography, books that we study in geography.